Chapter 1056, Cultivating. This is the true power of the mystic light realm. Sacred light and a dark yellow layer of lightning flashed around Zhao Feng's body as heaven and earth suddenly froze and released a terrifying force of gravity. The earth of wind lightning didn't give Zhao Feng a lot of offensive power, but it increased the strength of his defense by double. At the same time, it merged with the force of the sacred lightning body and created a layer of gravity that could suppress everything within a certain range. Weaker initial stage mystic light realm sacred lords would find it hard to even stand in front of Zhao Feng. Furthermore, the ninth level of the five elemental wind lightning technique contained many skills and secret techniques, most of which were used for defense. Zhao Feng took a look at them. I might be able to fight against Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss by myself now. Zhao Feng smiled confidently. It wasn't terrifying when someone suddenly obtained power. Only when they managed to actually control their power did they become terrifying. When Zhao Feng just broke through to the mystic light realm, he and the injured Nan Gongsheng weren't a match for Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss, but now Zhao Feng was confident he could fight against Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss alone. However, that was just a fight. He would need to use some important hidden cards if he wanted to gain an advantage and actually defeat Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss. Master, some people from Nine Darkness Palace are here. Bai Kuang Yue sent a message to Zhao Feng through the Dark Heart Seal. Zhao Feng smiled faintly and walked out. 3 elders of Nine Darkness Palace stood in the Great Hall. The leader was Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss. Zhao Feng, I'm here to apologize to the Hall of Gods. Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss said quickly in an awkward tone. I'm an upper echelon elder of Nine Darkness Palace, but I used my own power to encourage the other elders of Nine Darkness Palace to attack another 3-star power. I hereby apologize to all the members of the Hall of Gods. Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss said with extreme unwillingness, but this issue had indeed attracted the attention of the Grand Imperial Hall. The Grand Elder of Nine Darkness Palace had personally come out to punish Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss and forced him to apologize to the Hall of Gods. Zhao Feng maintained a faint smile and waited for what Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss was going to say next. Zhao Feng wouldn't accept it if it was just a verbal apology. Nine Darkness Palace is willing to hand over all the resources of Dark Sky Gate, the Black Radiant Clan, and the other forces to the Hall of Gods. I hope that you will let all the members of these forces go. Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss told Zhao Feng what price Nine Darkness Palace was willing to pay. Bai Kuang Yue was faintly shocked. Dark Sky Gate was a 3-star power, and the Black Radiant Clan and Company were all powerful forces that had at least 2.5 stars, yet Nine Darkness Palace was willing to give it all to the Hall of Gods. Zhao Feng was silent for a moment. He wasn't satisfied with this apology. Zhao Feng, are you not satisfied with that? Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss saw what Zhao Feng was thinking and asked with mockery. Nine Darkness Palace wasn't against Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss attacking the Hall of Gods. The problem was that Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss failed. Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss believed that the Grand Elder wouldn't just let go of the Hall of Gods. From his point of view, Zhao Feng was going to die eventually, and yet he was still acting so greedily. Those resources will only be enough to release the prisoners, but you attacking the Hall of Gods won't end just like that. Zhao Feng said and looked at Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss. The 2 elders next to Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss became enraged. Nine Darkness Palace had never been in such a bad situation before. They were willing to pay Zhao Feng, but he still wasn't satisfied. Zhao Feng, don't get too cocky. Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss expression became cold. Nine Darkness Palace would only give the aforementioned resources as repayment. If Zhao Feng didn't accept it, then Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss would have to pay out of his own pocket. This is the Hall of Gods. Zhao Feng harumphed coldly as the invisible power of his intent suddenly descended. At the same time, a layer of golden yellow sacred light that flashed with arcs of lightning appeared around Zhao Feng's body and radiated an invisible pressure. This was the Hall of Gods, but Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss was acting in such a manner when he was supposed to be apologizing. What, this? The 2 sacred lords next to Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss instantly felt the air become heavy as if mountains were crushing down on them, and the mystic light sacred power within their bodies seemed to freeze. This power. Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss expression became ugly. Even his own magnificent power wasn't much stronger than Zhao Feng's. The 2 normal sacred lords next to him were completely unable to fight back against Zhao Feng's power. Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss himself found it slightly difficult to breathe, but since he was in the Hall of Gods, He couldn't do anything. Bai Kuang Yue was standing next to Zhao Feng, and she was immediately stunned and overjoyed. Zhao Feng, we can talk about the repayment. Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss had to lower his stance helplessly. Who? With a thought, Zhao Feng retracted his power. Just now, his power focused mainly on the laws of Earth since it contained strong pressure. When used with the pressure of his sacred lightning body, normal sacred lords wouldn't be able to fight back against Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng's strength. Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss expression became dark. Only a month or so had passed, and Zhao Feng managed to completely familiarize himself with the power of the mystic light realm. His strength exceeded what Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss expected. The two sides then started to negotiate. Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss gave some of his wealth while the other two Sacred Lords had to give up almost all their wealth as well. Finally, Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss led the members of Nine Darkness Palace and left the Hall of Gods with anger. Bai Kuang Yue, use these resources wisely. Also, give 3 purifying blood sacred spirit pills to the Grand Elder of Black Screen Corner, Zhao Feng ordered before leaving. He received a large amount of wealth from Nine Darkness Palace. It was comparable to the wealth of a 3-star power that had existed for 1,000,000 years. If used well, the Hall of Gods would be able to expand even faster. At the same time, Zhao Feng understood that he needed to become stronger as well. The strength of a force was determined by 2 points, the first was wealth while the second was the experts. Zhao Feng glanced at Nan Gongsheng after returning to the hall in the Forbidden Grounds. A wicked and terrifying force covered the hall that Nan Gongsheng was in, which made others scared of it. That place wasn't actually forbidden, but everyone acted like it was, no one dared to approach it. Maybe it was because Zhao Feng had broken through to the mystic light realm and displayed strong battle power, but Nan Gongsheng was working hard. After recovering from his injuries, Nan Gongsheng immediately started to absorb the power of the evil god. According to what Zhao Feng knew, Xie Yang was an ancient god, a peak existence amongst those at the heavenly divine realm. As long as nothing happened to Nan Gongsheng and he was able to inherit and control this power, he would be able to break through to the heavenly divine realm easily, and he might be able to go even higher. Heavenly divine realm. Zhao Feng looked forward to it as well, but at the moment, he was extremely far away from the heavenly divine realm. Zhao Feng started to cultivate once more after going back to the forbidden grounds of the Hall of Gods. After breaking through to the mystic light realm, his physical strength had increased dramatically, but the power of his soul hadn't increased by much. Zhao Feng still relied on the god's spiritual eye the most, so he placed greater importance on the soul. The main reason he cultivated his body was so he could deal with the god lightning tribulation in the future. Furthermore, the new duplication ability of his left eye used up a lot of eye intent. Without powerful eye intent or a strong soul body, Zhao Feng wouldn't be able to use this ability very well. Zhao Feng circulated the 10,000 divine thoughts technique and started to multitask. Zhao Feng first drank some of the pond water. The pond water wasn't very effective toward Zhao Feng's body now, so most of its power would be transferred to the soul. Zhao Feng also focused on some of the skills and secret techniques contained in the Earth of Wind Lightning. The last part of his focus stayed in the dimension of his god eye. Now that Zhao Feng had 2 demigod heads, he had twice as much of the remaining god tribulation lightning. Although it was still very little, it was better than nothing. After all, it was extremely rare to obtain god tribulation lightning. However, Zhao Feng didn't absorb the power of god tribulation lightning in a rush. Instead, he tried to use the mysterious golden ball to duplicate it. Zhao Feng first duplicated some of the resources he needed, then slowly duplicated items of higher grade. He wanted to know the limit of this duplication ability. Zhao Feng entered a long period of seclusion to increase his strength in every respect. At the same time, he would communicate with Bai Kuang Yue with the Dark Heart Seal to understand what was happening in the outside world. During this period of time, an elder of the Earth Demon cult also came and gave a large amount of resources as repayment. The battle between the Hall of Gods and Nine Darkness Palace increased the former's fame. Now that they had also obtained a large amount of resources, the Hall of Gods was rapidly expanding into the inner continent. The assassination missions aimed at the middle upper echelon of Nine Darkness Palace continued. After all, Nine Darkness Palace had no evidence that the Hall of Gods was behind it. Nine Darkness Palace could only protect themselves and try to frighten the assassins off. The assassin ranked 19th in the Silence Assassination Division was caught by Nine Darkness Palace not long ago and immediately killed. As for Black Screen Corner, they were silent toward the Silence Assassination Division's expansion. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed. Zhao Feng had consolidated his 5-elemental wind lightning technique at the initial stages of the 9th level and consolidated his sacred lightning body at the initial stages of the 6th level as well. His soul intent had become stronger, and so had his overall strength. Master, demigod Kun Yuan didn't leave after arriving at the battlefield. One day, Bai Kuang Yue sent news to Zhao Feng. The war was progressing rapidly. After Kun Yuan arrived at the battlefield and realized that he had been tricked, he didn't immediately rush back and instead chose to stay. Zhao Feng could imagine that Kun Yuan wanted to gather war points and buy resources to increase his strength. No late-stage Mystic Light Realm Sacred Lord had appeared on the battlefield yet, but with Kun Yuan's appearance, the rate of the war sped up, and the scale of the war increased once more. No. I need to go to the battlefield. Zhao Feng's eyes darkened. He attracted Kun Yuan to the battlefield because he thought that the latter would rush back directly after realizing Zhao Feng wasn't present. In that case, Kun Yuan would waste a lot of time on traveling, and his strength would stagnate. However, reality didn't go to plan. Since that was the case, Zhao Feng needed to find Kun Yuan before he became too strong and resolve the feud. After all, Zhao Feng's strength was now consolidated as high as it could go in the short term, so he could negotiate with Kun Yuan. Otherwise, it would be over for Zhao Feng once Kun Yuan became a demigod again. Nan Gongsheng, do you want to go to the battlefield? Zhao Feng messaged Nan Gongsheng. Over the last half a year, apart from absorbing the power of the evil god, Nan Gongsheng would accept some assassination missions. Now, he had reached the early stages of the Mystic Light Realm and was ranked first amongst the assassins of the Silence Assassination Division. Chapter 1057, Returning to the Battlefield. The battlefield? Nan Gongsheng suddenly opened his eyes, and the wicked power around him faded away. I need to go see Kun Yuan. Zhao Feng messaged. He wanted to talk to Kun Yuan, and he also wanted to see Zhao Yufei as well. During his seclusion, Zhao Yufei had stayed in the 13th Prince's camp and helped him a lot, which Zhao Feng needed to stop as well. I will come. The Silence Assassination Division doesn't suit me, Nan Gongsheng said in a deep tone. Nan Gongsheng's cultivation was too high. It was already good if there were 1 or 2 assassination missions in the Silence Assassination Division that reached his level. Furthermore, while doing missions in the Silence Assassination Division, Nan Gongsheng had heard a lot of news about the front lines. The rate of war was progressing extremely fast, and even late-stage Sacred Lords were starting to appear. From the looks of it, going to the battlefield was indeed more interesting than staying in the Silence Assassination Division. Good. Get ready, we'll leave in a month, Zhao Feng said. Nan Gongsheng knew a little bit about the feud between Zhao Feng and Kun Yuan. Zhao Feng also wanted to test Nan Gongsheng. When Nan Gongsheng heard that Zhao Feng was going to see Kun Yuan, he didn't reveal any intentions that he was going to help Zhao Feng. He was instead more focused on killing the enemies. It seemed that Nan Gongsheng had been heavily affected by the fight with Nine Darkness Palace last time and had absorbed a lot of the evil god's power to increase his strength. This made his relatively stable mind and personality become slightly twisted. Zhao Feng also needed to make a few preparations in this month of time. With a thought, Zhao Feng entered the dimension of his left eye. Success. Zhao Feng revealed a joyful expression. He had chosen to replicate the resource of the highest grade, the Earth Spirit Golden Line Grass. He spent 5 days' time, and the mysterious Golden Ball managed to duplicate this resource. However, Zhao Feng's eye intent and a lot of his true yuan had also been used up. The level of his eye intent directly correlated to the strength of his eye bloodline power, and his true yuan affected his physical attacks. If they were both weakened, it might result in damages to his foundation that would be extremely hard to heal. According to the value of the Earth Spirit Golden Line Grass, Zhao Feng could roughly estimate that 1 level higher was his limit. It's about comparable to 1 mid-tier heaven-grade weapon. Zhao Feng was faintly shocked. This meant that, as long as Zhao Feng had enough time and resources, he could duplicate large numbers of weapons. At the same time, Zhao Feng knew that it was impossible to duplicate the God-slaying arrow. It would be extremely difficult to even duplicate the replica God-slaying arrows. Zhao Feng then sunk his consciousness into the mysterious golden ball and entered the ancient dream realm. A few golden-winged scarlet tigers lay around the pond in the ancient dream realm. Zhao Feng had given them the order to scout out the entire landscape of the forest. Master, apart from the earth-shattering raging bull race and the Skyfire lightning apes, we have found no other threats in the forest. The leader of the golden-winged scarlet tigers reported the situation to Zhao Feng. Master, here are the resources that we found. The golden-winged scarlet tiger took out many precious resources from its little world, and a strong smell appeared. Very good. Zhao Feng put all these ancient resources away. Many unknown treasures were stored in Zhao Feng's misty spatial world, all of which were obtained from the Black Wind Canyon. Zhao Feng didn't dare to take these unknown treasures out and let others recognize them, so he could only store them for now. What are the chances of us winning against the earth-shattering raging bull race? Zhao Feng asked. The earth-shattering raging bull race was ranked a bit over 30 places higher than the golden-winged scarlet tiger race. Now that Master has become stronger, our chance of winning is 50%. The golden-winged scarlet tiger leader thought before replying. 50%? Zhao Feng's eyebrows furrowed. Back when Zhao Feng fought against this golden-winged scarlet tiger, he used his full power and 5 emperors. Now that he had reached the mystic light realm, he could defeat the golden-winged scarlet tiger leader by himself. The golden-winged scarlet tiger leader knew this but still told him such a thing. From this, he could see that the earth-shattering raging bulls were not normal. Looks like I will need to train all of you. Zhao Feng slowly said. In order to find resources in the ancient dream realm, he needed to enslave ancient beasts. Zhao Feng managed to enslave the golden-winged scarlet tigers, but he forgot to make them stronger. One had to know that the golden-winged scarlet tiger leader was only an early-stage mystic light realm, but its battle power was comparable to the late stages of the mystic light realm. However, its soul intent was still only at the initial stages of the mystic light realm, which was why Zhao Feng was able to defeat it when he was just a quasi-sacred lord. However, raising the golden-winged scarlet tigers troubled Zhao Feng. Almost all the golden-winged scarlet tigers here were sacred lords. They lived in the ancient dream realm and were already strong in every aspect. What could Zhao Feng even use to raise them? Zhao Feng finally made a decision. Let all the golden-winged scarlet tigers use the pond water and attack the earth-shattering raging bull race when it's depleted. Zhao Feng took away some of the pond water before saying. He could only strengthen the golden-winged scarlet tigers by using the resources from the ancient dream realm. Zhao Feng decided to use the duplication ability to duplicate items from the ancient dream realm and increase the battle power of the golden-winged scarlet tigers. After we successfully conquer the earth-shattering raging bull race, we will progress toward the area behind the forest. In order to obtain more resources, Zhao Feng had to scout deeper. The golden-winged scarlet tiger nodded its head. It understood Zhao Feng's ambitions. Zhao Feng then left the ancient dream realm. By Kuang Yue, I will be heading to the front lines soon. Zhao Feng started to give orders to Bai Kuang Yue through the Dark Heart Seal. He then discussed the plan of progress for the Silence Assassination Division with Supreme Emperor Dark Knight before going to Sacred Dr. Jade Spirit and giving her 1 golden-winged scarlet tiger and 3 flasks of pond water from the ancient dream realm. Zhao Feng took out the herbs that he had obtained in the ancient dream realm after returning to the Forbidden Grounds. This is the spirit-gathering soul refining grass, and it can condense soul intent and heal injuries in the soul. It's a rare herb used for some Tao of the Soul pills. The spirit-gathering soul refining grass was one of the most precious Tao of the Soul treasures. After eating it, Zhao Feng felt a strong surge of wood elemental soul power spread throughout his soul. It washed his soul, and the element of wood surfaced in his mind. Zhao Feng opened his eyes a month later and released a wave of mental energy. My soul intent has become stronger. It's far stronger than normal sacred lords at the early stages of the mystic light realm. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. This was his first time using a rare resource from the ancient dream realm, and its effect was unexpectedly good. Zhao Feng would spend 5 days at most to completely absorb the rare soul treasures of the continent zone, but he had spent such a long time just to absorb the spirit-gathering soul-refining grass from the ancient dream realm. From this, one could tell how effective it was. A few other herbs from the ancient dream realm appeared before Zhao Feng. He had duplicated these with the mysterious golden ball over the past month. Hu tilde. Zhao Feng appeared outside the great hall where Nan Gongsheng was waiting. Let's go. Zhao Feng said. Shoo. Zhao Feng waved his arm, and they faded away in a flash of silver light. If Zhao Feng was alone, he could teleport through one whole province. Including the time needed for recovery, he would be able to reach the front lines in roughly 5 days. However, since Zhao Feng was bringing an early-stage Mystic Light Realm Sacred Lord with him, it increased his energy expenditure dramatically, so the distance he could travel was reduced dramatically as well. As expected of a substandard god item. It's so convenient. Nan Gongsheng licked his lips, and his eyes flashed while they were traveling. Zhao Feng squinted his eyes. He saw greed from Nan Gongsheng's eyes. From the looks of it, Nan Gongsheng's personality had been changed even more by the power of the evil god. Nan Gongsheng, come try this. Zhao Feng took out a flask of the pond water from the ancient dream realm. Nan Gongsheng scanned through it with his divine sense and hesitated for a moment before drinking it. The wicked aura from his body then started to fade away. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng arrived at the front lines in roughly 10 days. Since Zhao Feng had left a spatial marking in Meng City, he and Nan Gongsheng went there directly. However, at this moment, Meng City was very empty. There was only one emperor, a few kings, and several hundred great origin core realm cultivators. With Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng's cultivation, no one could find them if they wanted to remain hidden. Looks like the war is indeed progressing very quickly, Zhao Feng murmured. According to what he knew, the front lines were very intense. It wasn't just a matter of protecting the cities anymore, all the forces spread out and started to fight for every inch of land. Even the generals of the cities had to personally lead a group and enter the battles. The 9th prince was no exception. Let's go to the battlefield. Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng left Meng City. The front lines had a lot of people with strong battle power, and they were extremely dangerous. If Zhao Feng killed enemies and obtained war points, his fame would spread. After that, Kun Yun and Zhao Yufei would come find him on their own. This was Zhao Feng's plan. The Hall of Gods didn't need Zhao Feng to give them resources anymore. On the contrary, Zhao Feng used the Hall of Gods to find resources for himself, but it was far from enough. The resources that Zhao Feng needed for his cultivation were comparable to the wealth of a sacred king. On top of that, Zhao Feng still needed to strengthen the golden-winged scarlet tigers. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng sped through the sky. They reached the main war zone within 2 days, and Zhao Feng soon found a group of non-humans with a super eyesight. The leader was a quasi-sacred lord. Apart from 3 emperors in the group, the others were all elite kings. Emperor Blade Lake, there's something in the northwestern direction. One of the members responsible for scouting said. 2 human figures then sped toward them. Only 2 people? Are these 2 humans retarded? They dare to travel through the war zone without fear? Some non-human kings in the group instantly started to laugh. You bunch of retards, run. Emperor Blade Lake's expression turned pale white as he turned into a streak of white light and immediately ran away. Emperor Blade Lake's intent had reached the level of a sacred lord, and according to his senses, those 2 were definitely sacred lords. The purple and blood-colored hair male in particular gave him a strong sense of danger. Physical Force Lightning Domain. Zhao Feng flew into the air above this little group and released a surge of lightning with his sacred lightning body. Everything within 1,000 miles instantly became dark and heavy. All the non-humans that remained were immediately killed. Zhao Feng's physical force lightning domain was twice as strong when he used it with the Earth of Wind lightning. Even normal Mystic Light Realm sacred lords would find it hard to move in Zhao Feng's physical force lightning domain, let alone Void God realms. Whoosh! Seeing Zhao Feng finish off all the non-humans, Nan Gongsheng turned into a beam of purple and blood-colored light and chased directly after the quasi-sacred lord running away. How is this possible? Why did such strong sacred lords come here? Are the humans going to retaliate in full force now? Emperor Blade Lake's body turned cold as he witnessed Zhao Feng's actions. Whoosh! A figure descended. Emperor Blade Lake felt like he was in a swamp as his movements slowed down. Crack! The purple and blood-colored light around Emperor Blade Lake turned into a demonic claw that grabbed hold of him. The claw ripped this non-human quasi-sacred lord's body and soul apart. Chapter 1058, Unstoppable. Zhao Feng continued to search for prey as well as the 9th Prince's group after finishing off this group of non-humans. Zhao Feng's left eye soon found another non-human group, but this time, the leader was a sacred lord. Let's go. Zhao Feng's eyes twinkled. Although late-stage sacred lords started appearing on the battlefield, there were only 2 or 3 of them in an entire province. The strongest fighters on the battlefield were still usually initial-stage sacred lords. Ambush from the humans. The Sacred Lord in the non-human group was from the Wolfman race, and he immediately sensed it. The 40 or so experts in the group immediately became on guard. 2 humans? The Wolfman Sacred Lord's heart jumped up, but he immediately sensed that these 2 were only at the initial stages of the mystic light realm. However, the purple and blood-colored hair youth gave him a very dangerous feeling. Retreat for now. The Wolfman leader's expression darkened as he gave the order. The humans have increased the number of their sacred lords? A peak emperor in the group was surprised. Although the number of initial stage sacred lords was increasing, this was the first time they had seen 2 sacred lords in the same group. Their group was one of the strongest groups in this war zone, but they still had to retreat against 2 sacred lords. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng immediately charged over. This time, Zhao Feng went for the Wolfman Sacred Lord leader and left the other members to Nan Gongsheng. Wang! A purple and blood-colored divine light spread across Nan Gongsheng's back and filled the air. All of heaven and earth turned into a purple and blood-colored wicked dimension, and Nan Gongsheng's figure swayed through the projection of his little world like a ghost. Not good. I estimated their strength incorrectly. The Wolfman Sacred Lord's heart turned cold as he felt the terrifying power contained within this little world projection. Arg! The non-human enemies in Nan Gongsheng's little world projection felt their blood and energy quickly deplete. Some of the weaker kings were turned into dried corpses. How is this happening? Some of the stronger non-human emperors were completely stunned. They didn't expect these 2 sacred lords, who are extremely young, to have such terrifying battle power. They couldn't fight back against these 2 humans at all. Wu tilde. The Wolfman Sacred Lord instantly used a secret technique, and the bloodline within his body activated as he turned into a giant azure wolf that ran away. At the same time, he crushed a message token, and a streak of light merged into the air and disappeared. The Wolfman Sacred Lord suddenly felt a dangerous sensation close in on him. It was extremely easy for Zhao Feng to catch up to this Wolfman Sacred Lord. Sky-destroying Sacred Lightning Palm. Zhao Feng condensed his power of wind lightning and unleashed a scarlet golden palm. Although the Earth of Wind Lightning was on a higher level, it focused on defense and control, so Zhao Feng still used the fire of Wind Lightning for offense. This power. The Wolfman Sacred Lord felt a danger that he had never felt before. This palm seemed to merge with heaven and earth as it closed off all paths of escape. The Wolfman Sacred Lord immediately turned around, and an azure mystic light sacred power started to burn. Wolfmen didn't specialize in defense. To them, offense was the best defense. Azure Wolf Sacred Light. The transformed Wolfman Sacred Lord opened his mouth and spat out a condensed ball of mystic light sacred power. However, when this azure sacred power landed on Zhao Feng's scarlet golden sacred lightning palm, it only slowed down the sacred lightning palm a little. Boom. The scarlet golden sacred lightning palm crushed forward and destroyed the azure power. Bam. The remaining power from the palm landed on the giant azure wolf and sent him flying for several miles. Whoosh! Zhao Feng immediately followed and unleashed several more palms, taking the life of this non-human sacred lord. Just like that, Zhao Feng and Nan Gongsheng easily destroyed one of the most powerful non-human groups in this war zone. They proceeded to travel across the war zone outside Mang City and kill all the non-human groups they saw. At the same time, they met many human groups, and they finally located the 9th Prince's group through them. Within a ruined hall. Who's there? The eyes of a middle-aged male wearing a black and gold robe flashed and released a sharp and powerful pressure. Zhao Feng, you're here? The 9th Prince flew out. Zhao Feng? The expression of the middle-aged male changed slightly as he looked at the 2 youths flying over. News of the Hall of Gods and Nine Darkness Palace fighting had already spread across the Great Gon Lord dynasty, including the front lines. The newly formed force, the Hall of Gods, managed to fight back against an elder of Nine Darkness Palace who was at the late stages of the mystic light realm. Such strength made others look at it in a different perspective. There were also rumors that the Grand Elder of the Hall of Gods, Zhao Feng, chased Sacred Lord Demonic Abyss across an entire province, and the pursuit only ended when the Grand Elder of the Earth Demon cult appeared. The other emperors and kings in the group looked at Zhao Feng with jealousy, envy, or respect. Senior Zhao. The 3 members of the Ji family were also in the 9th Prince's group. They weren't as childish as before, they had matured. Amongst them, Jielan had become prettier like the leaves of autumn, elegant and noble. She had many people chasing after her in the battlefield. This is an upper echelon member of the Grand Imperial Hall, Sacred Lord Gonghuang. The ninth prince introduced to Zhao Feng. Greetings, senior. Zhao Feng looked over and gave a faint bow. The ninth prince's group was the strongest group that Zhao Feng had seen so far, and Sacred Lord Gonghuang was the strongest person in the group. He was at the early stages of the Mystic Light Realm, and the group also had 2 quasi-sacred lords. The other members were also experts. Zhao Feng, I heard of you a long time ago. And this must be Nan Gongsheng. Sacred Lord Gonghuang inspected the 2 youngsters in front of him and didn't dare to underestimate them at all. Indeed. Nan Gongsheng replied. Xiang, now that your friends are here to help, we can push forward and wipe out all the non-human groups. Sacred Lord Gonghuang suggested. Because of Sacred Lord myriad forms, the Grand Imperial Hall worried about the ninth prince's safety, so they sent Sacred Lord Gonghuang over. Zhao Feng, thank you. The ninth prince faintly smiled and spoke. After Zhao Feng left, all the princes increased their own forces and performed well. For example, the 13th prince had the support of 9 Darkness Palace and the Earth Demon Cult. After Zhao Yufei arrived as well, the 13th prince took back a lot of territory in an unstoppable manner and defeated many non-human sacred lords. The Grand Imperial Hall was very satisfied with his performance. The non-humans then sent Sacred Lord Myriad Forms to stop the 13th prince. On the other hand, ever since Zhao Feng left, the 9th prince hadn't made any progress, losing the glory of their former days. Zhao Feng's ranking on the Lan Province War Board had also dropped. He was now ranked 273rd. However, Zhao Feng now returned as a sacred lord, and he brought Nan Gongsheng as well, who had the power of the evil god. The morale of the ninth prince's group increased dramatically. Most of them had followed the ninth prince from the beginning, and they couldn't help but remember the days when they conquered 2 cities and defeated Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. Let's go. The ninth prince was extremely confident, and Zhao Feng smiled faintly. No group with 3 sacred lords had ever appeared before. Although this might attract a lot of attention, that was precisely what Zhao Feng wanted. If Kun Yun and Zhao Yufei heard news that Zhao Feng was at the front lines, they would definitely come over. The ninth prince's group then traveled across the war zone and killed all the non-human groups they met. They were unstoppable. In just 10 days' time, they managed to push forward 10,000 miles outside Meng City and were almost at the stronghold of the non-humans. One day, the ninth prince's group decided to rest in a canyon. I heard that the non-humans have reacted and sent more sacred lords to this area. It doesn't matter. With our group's strength, we don't need to be scared of anyone. The members of the group discussed with each another. Shoo! Zhao Feng's figure disappeared and entered the misty spatial world. He took out some of the items he had duplicated in the dimension of his left eye. The next instant, Zhao Feng entered the ancient dream realm. At this moment, the pond water in the forest had been completely used up by the golden-winged scarlet tigers and the 5 poison distinct bees. In this period of time, Zhao Feng also sent in some of the duplicated resources. The overall strength of the golden-winged scarlet tigers had increased by 50%. Attack the earth-shattering raging bulls race. Zhao Feng ordered. He led the golden-winged scarlet tigers and 5 poison distinct bees to attack the territory of the earth-shattering raging bulls race. Zhao Feng's sudden disappearance surprised many people. I heard that Senior Zhao has a substandard god item that contains a little world that he can freely enter and exit. That's right. That substandard god item came from the ancient mysterious palace in the divine illusion dimension. Back then, all the geniuses and disciples of various forces were present, but that substandard god item fell into Senior Zhao's hands. Some of the kings and emperors in the group admired Zhao Feng and talked about him the entire way. Zhao Feng appeared a while later with a whoosh. Zhao Feng, let's get ready to leave. The ninth prince said after seeing Zhao Feng finish. They could capture more territory since the non-humans hadn't sent powerful reinforcements yet and obtained some war points from killing the non-human groups. Zhao Feng took out some herbs that could recover true yuan and mystic light sacred power and ate them. I've successfully conquered the earth-shattering raging bulls race. Now I just need to defeat the strongest force in the forest, the sky fire lightning apes. Then the entire forest will be my territory. Zhao Feng was overjoyed. He had obtained many resources after defeating the earth-shattering raging bulls race, and many of the materials and herbs were of the earth element. Zhao Feng needed to be careful when dealing with the sky fire lightning apes. The Skyfire Lightning Ape race was ranked 9412 ND among the 10,000 ancient races, several hundred places above the golden-winged scarlet tigers and the earth-shattering raging bulls. According to the golden-winged scarlet tigers, the fortunate thing was that there was only one Skyfire Lightning Ape in the forest, but the golden-winged scarlet tiger leader didn't even dare to approach it. It was the king of this forest. We haven't met any non-human groups for a long time now. Sacred Lord Gong Huang felt that something was off and suddenly spoke. Ha ha ha. Our group is too strong. Maybe the non-humans have already given up on this war zone. It's all thanks to Senior Zhao Feng and Senior Nan. Some of the kings in the group laughed and said. They didn't need to do anything at all with 3 sacred lords in their group. They were able to just obtain free war points. However, right at this moment, heaven and earth darkened. The heaven-earth Yuan Qi started to move as rain, wind, lightning, and fire descended. A non-human group charged over from the distance. The leader was a tall figure with a pair of rainbow-colored eyes that seemed to contain heaven and earth themselves. Chapter 1059, Fighting the Eyes of Myriad Forms Once Again. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. Sacred Lord Gong Huang said in shock. All kings, retreat immediately. The 9th prince immediately ordered. If it was just Sacred Lord Myriad Forms, the 3 Sacred Lords of the 9th Prince's group could deal with him. However, there was also an Elephant Man Sacred Lord who radiated a terrifying aura next to him. His pressure was simply covered by the scenery caused by the Eye of Myriad Forms. Whoosh! Whoosh! All the kings immediately retreated. Even the emperors and quasi-sacred lords retreated far away. Zhao Feng, you've finally come back to the battlefield. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms revealed an excited and ghastly smile. Back then, Zhao Feng forced Sacred Lord Myriad Forms into desperation with one arrow and almost killed him. He would never forget about this. However, when Sacred Lord Myriad Forms recovered from his injuries, Zhao Feng had already left the battlefield. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms roamed around the battlefield trying to find Zhao Feng, causing the hearts of the humans to twitch. Luckily, Zhao Yufei's battle power attracted the attention of the non-humans, and they sent Sacred Lord Myriad Forms to deal with the 13th prince. Nan Gongsheng's eyes flashed, and he licked his lips as the evil power within his body started to move. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms, I didn't kill you last time, and now you're trying to kill yourself? Zhao Feng laughed. Now that he had broken through to the Mystic Light Realm, fighting against Sacred Lord Myriad Forms was not a problem anymore. He could also leave the late-stage Mystic Light Realm Sacred Lord standing next to Sacred Lord Myriad Forms to Nan Gongsheng. Nan Gongsheng hadn't met a strong opponent yet and was becoming impatient. Ridiculous. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms revealed a disdainful expression. If it wasn't for the powerful arrow Zhao Feng used last time, how could he have lost? Furthermore, Sacred Lord Myriad Forms had completely consolidated his cultivation while recovering from his injuries and was stronger than ever. He didn't believe Zhao Feng had any more of those arrows. Even if Zhao Feng did, Sacred Lord Myriad Forms believed he could run away just like last time. He. Zhao Feng laughed coldly. If Zhao Feng shot out the dark golden arrow that focused on the soul last time, Sacred Lord Myriad Forms wouldn't have been able to escape. Elder Sky Trampler, I'll leave the other 2 humans to you. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms said to the Elephant Man Sacred Lord next to him. In order to kill Zhao Feng, Sacred Lord Myriad Forms paid a price to invite Sacred Lord Sky Trampler to help him. Of course, Sacred Lord Myriad Forms didn't invite Sacred Lord Sky Trampler to help him kill Zhao Feng. All Sacred Lord Sky Trampler was going to do was stall the other Sacred Lords. Zhao Feng would be reserved for himself. I don't put 2 early-stage Sacred Lords in my eyes. Sacred Lord Sky Trampler said arrogantly, but his gaze landed on Nan Gongsheng for a while. Whoosh! The 2 non-human Sacred Lords instantly moved and released their power. Myriad Forms Earth World. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms' eyes of Myriad Forms started to spin, and all of heaven and earth started to tremble as the power of nature started to rise. A dark yellow mist suddenly filled the sky, and a terrifying pressure descended. The eyes of Myriad Forms had changed the element of nature itself. It wasn't a domain, and there was no way to get out of it. Nan Gongsheng and Sacred Lord Gong Huang's body became heavy, and they felt a resistive force around them. Boom. Pang. Sacred Lord Sky Trampler stomped downward, and a dark yellow mystic light sacred power appeared. Space nearby started to shake, and all of the earth element nearby was completely controlled. Not good. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms has changed the environment, and Sacred Lord Sky Trampler cultivates an earth elemental technique. Sacred Lord Gong Huang's expression became grim. Being a late-stage Sacred Lord, the enemy already had the advantage. With the power of nature helping him as well, Sacred Lord Sky Trampler's power would only become greater. However, in comparison, he would rather face Sacred Lord Sky Trampler than Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. Wang tilde boom. Killing intent flashed through Nan Gongsheng's eyes as a purple and blood-colored divine light shot out from his back and filled the air. It even managed to damage part of the Myriad Forms Earth world. What a powerful little world projection. Sacred Lord Gong Huang's expression turned to joy. Boom. Nan Gongsheng didn't bother with Sacred Lord Gong Huang, he simply charged forward. His forceful little world could get rid of the pressure from the Myriad Forms Earth world. Sky Trampling First Stance. Sacred Lord Sky Trampler used a technique and lifted his right foot before slamming it down. A surge of earth elemental power seemed to explode through space and shoot toward Nan Gongsheng. Whoosh. Sacred Lord Gong Huang also released his little world projection to help fight back against the pressure of the dark yellow world and went to help Nan Gongsheng. He was surprised and overjoyed by Nan Gongsheng's battle power, but it was still hard for Nan Gongsheng to handle Sacred Lord Sky Trampler alone. Once Nan Gongsheng lost, Sacred Lord Gong Huang would certainly not be Sacred Lord Sky Trampler's match. Peng. Peng. Boom. At the edge of the area where the Sacred Lords fought, the Ninth Prince led some peak emperors and quasi-sacred lords to fight against a few non-human experts. In the center of this dark yellow world, Zhao Feng and Sacred Lord Myriad Forms had already started to fight. Sacred Lightning dominating body. Zhao Feng circulated his Earth of Wind Lightning and merged it into his Sacred Lightning body. Zhao Feng's sacred body instantly grew taller, and dark yellow lightning glittered around him. He looked extremely powerful, and he seemed like a golden god of war. Who? Zhao Feng used the lightning wings flying technique and charged toward Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. He's not affected by the Myriad Forms Earth world? Sacred Lord Myriad Forms exclaimed as he looked at the floating Zhao Feng. Because he had fought against Zhao Feng before, Sacred Lord Myriad Forms knew that Zhao Feng didn't specialize in the elements of earth or metal. The reason Sacred Lord Myriad Forms invited Sacred Lord Sky Trampler was because he cultivated an earth elemental technique, and they could kill Zhao Feng with it. However, when they met this time, Zhao Feng was capable of using the power of earth. Sword of Piercing Metal. Rainbow-colored mystic light sacred power surged from Sacred Lord Myriad Forms and instantly turned into a pure metal elemental attack. From earth came metal. His Sword of Piercing Metal met no resistance in this environment, and it actually became stronger. Physical Force Lightning Domain, Fire of Wind Lightning. Fire countered metal, so Zhao Feng circulated the Fire of Wind Lightning to form the Physical Force Lightning Domain. A scarlet golden domain of lightning and scorching heat instantly appeared around Zhao Feng's body. The sword of golden light was instantly suppressed by the power of lightning, fire, and physical force when it got close. Tornado of Wind Lightning. Zhao Feng waved his hand, and a terrifying force of fire of wind lightning that contained the power of God Tribulation Lightning clashed with Sacred Lord Myriad Forms' attack. The power of his fire element can actually destroy my metal elemental attack? Sacred Lord Myriad Forms' expression froze for a moment, and he was slightly surprised. Amongst the 5 elements, he didn't realize that Zhao Feng's forte was fire. Zhao Feng's Blood Devil Sun bloodline was also of the fire element. Take this move. Zhao Feng thrust out his palm. He didn't need to be scared of Sacred Lord Myriad Forms at all. This attack didn't contain any element, it was pure physical strength. He knew that the eyes of Myriad Forms had extremely strong defense against elemental attacks, otherwise Zhao Feng's replica God-slaying arrow from before would have been able to kill Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. Little tricks. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms focused his eyes, and a dark yellow wall of earth formed in front of him and blocked everything ahead of him. Peng. Boom. Zhao Feng's pure physical strength attack was blocked by the wall. After all, the element of earth specialized in defense. Mental Energy Spike. Zhao Feng activated his left eye, and a purple golden crystalline spike of lightning shot through the wall of earth into Sacred Lord Myriad Forms' soul. Arg. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms instantly screamed as lightning crackled through his soul and made it tremble. Looks like Soul Eye bloodline techniques are the most effective against you, Zhao Feng said. The eyes of myriad forms had extremely strong offensive and defensive power when it came to the physical dimension. Any elemental attack didn't have much of an effect on him. Damn it, this human's eye bloodline is soul-based. Sacred Lord Myriad Form's eyes started to spin. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms knew that his weakness was his soul, so he purposely cultivated soul-defending techniques, but Zhao Feng was still able to injure him. Storm of Metal Swords. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms released a wave of mystic light sacred power and prepared to finish off Zhao Feng as quickly as possible. Illusion Maze Domain. Zhao Feng used the lightning wings flying technique to approach Sacred Lord Myriad Forms and unleash a Soul Eye bloodline technique. Zhao Feng's left eye became a limitless world of purple and gold mazes that was extremely alluring. Wang Tilda. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms couldn't help but look at Zhao Feng's eyes, and he instantly felt himself lose control of his consciousness. Sacred Lord Myriad Form's skill was also interrupted because of Zhao Feng's eye bloodline technique. Wang. Zhao Feng suddenly stopped the illusion maze domain as a large wave of flames that glittered with a purple crystalline light and wisps of God tribulation lightning appeared from his left eye. Wind Lightning Eye Flame. Zhao Feng unleashed this Soul Eye bloodline attack while Sacred Lord Myriad Form's soul intent hadn't recovered yet. A dark purple lightning fire exploded in Sacred Lord Myriad Form's face and started to burn. This made Zhao Feng remember the first time he fought Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. Back then, Zhao Feng could only defend, but now, Zhao Feng was the one unleashing continuous soul attacks against Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. Damn it, this brat. Sacred Lord Myriad Form's soul became heavily injured, and he was enraged. His eyes of Myriad Forms controlled the power of Myriad Forms, but Zhao Feng had also comprehended many elements, including the elements of wood, water, fire, earth, wind, and many more. This meant that Zhao Feng was completely resilient against a lot of the powers of the eyes of Myriad Forms. However, Sacred Lord Myriad Forms wasn't resilient against Zhao Feng's soul attacks. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms suddenly realized that Zhao Feng countered him. Myriad Forms Dimension. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms' eyes started to spin. At this instant, heaven and earth seemed to tremble as countless elements and intents filled the air. It was as if the world was meeting doomsday. Not good. He's going to release the Myriad Forms Dimension. Zhao Feng's heart moved. The Myriad Forms Dimension was one of Sacred Lord Myriad Forms' killing moves, and it was incredibly strong. Zhao Feng had personally witnessed it before. I can't let him unleash the Myriad Forms Dimension. Zhao Feng's expression darkened. He would become heavily suppressed in the Myriad Forms Dimension. Zhao Feng also knew that Sacred Lord Myriad Forms still had the laws of yin and yang as a killing move. Hu tilde whoosh. The scarlet wings of lightning on Zhao Feng's back fluttered as he approached Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. Gaze of the God Eye. A strong surge of eye bloodline power came from Zhao Feng's left eye and formed a bottomless purple whirlpool that connected to a limitless purple abyss. A forbidden power that could suck out one's soul covered Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. This forbidden power seemed to be the power of a god, no one could stop it. Sacred Lord Myriad Form's soul suddenly shook as it was slowly pulled out from his body. What is this? Sacred Lord Myriad Form's heart trembled. If he continued to use his eyes of Myriad Forms to form the Myriad Forms Dimension, he would be unable to protect his soul. Chapter 1060, They're All Here. What is this? Sacred Lord Myriad Form's heart trembled. If he continued to use his eyes of Myriad Forms to form the Myriad Forms Dimension, he would be unable to protect his soul. However, if he didn't use his Myriad Forms Dimension, Sacred Lord Myriad Forms realized that he wouldn't be Zhao Feng's match. Zhao Feng had a calm expression as he used the gaze of the God Eye to suppress Sacred Lord Myriad Forms and slowly drag his soul out. At the same time, Zhao Feng released his divine sense to see how Nan Gongsheng was doing. Evil Demon Chaos. Nan Gongsheng released surges of purple and blood-colored mystic light sacred power and thrust out his palms, sending waves of silver and purple ancient demonic light forward. Sacred Lord Sky Trampler, still in the Myriad Forms Earth world, had to go on the defensive. Is this Nan Gongsheng's true strength? Sacred Lord Gong Huang was stunned. He felt that Nan Gongsheng was able to deal with Sacred Lord Sky Trampler alone. Blood Devil Claw. Nan Gongsheng revealed a bloodthirsty smile as he formed a purple and blood-colored claw that slashed toward Sacred Lord Sky Trampler. Sacred Lord Sky Trampler had a grim expression as he awakened the bloodline within his body and released a fierce aura, trampling the earth, shattering the sky. The image of a fierce elephant appeared around Sacred Lord Sky Trampler. This giant elephant raised its foot and stomped downward. A terrifying force caused heaven and earth to tremble as the laws of earth shot out in every direction. Nan Gongsheng, I'll come help you. Sacred Lord Gong Huang held the golden halberd and slashed out, releasing a golden dragon as he charged forward. Peng. Bam. Boom. Nan Gongsheng and Sacred Lord Gong Huang had the advantage when they teamed up, so they started suppressing Sacred Lord Sky Trampler. It seems that, as Nan Gongsheng's cultivation rises, his control over the power of the evil god rises as well, Zhao Feng said gently. This brat still has the heart to pay attention to other things? Sacred Lord Myriad Forms was enraged. Zhao Feng was watching the other battle while still fighting with him. Whoosh! Sacred Lord Myriad Form's eyes suddenly spun in a circle once, and a figure leapt out with a rainbow-colored light. Since Sacred Lord Myriad Form's soul was being suppressed by Zhao Feng, Sacred Lord Myriad Forms couldn't use his Myriad Forms dimension, so he could only release his clone. Clone? Zhao Feng's expression became grim. He couldn't use other attacks when using the gaze of the god eye or else it would be interrupted. However, almost all Sacred Lords at the early stages of the Mystic Light Realm or higher had a clone. This meant that, when dealing with Mystic Light Realms, the gaze of the god eye would be much less effective. Die. Sacred Lord Myriad Form's clone blinked with a rainbow-colored sacred light as it charged at Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng stopped the gaze of the god eye and punched out. Boom. A powerful force landed on Sacred Lord Myriad Form's clone. When the attack appeared, Sacred Lord Myriad Form's clone turned into a metal ball. The metal element increased his defense, and he was able to take the punch from Zhao Feng head-on. Bam! Sacred Lord Myriad Form's clone was sent flying, and a large hole appeared in his chest. Even though Sacred Lord Myriad Form's clone focused on defense, he was still unable to stop Zhao Feng's punch. However, Sacred Lord Myriad Form's soul used this chance to return to his body and quickly pull away from Zhao Feng as he recalled his clone. Sacred Lord Myriad Form's clone had comprehended many laws and intents within the Myriad Form's dimension and understood much more than others, but Zhao Feng's punch still severely injured and almost destroyed him. How is this possible? How did this human become so much stronger so quickly? Fear appeared on Sacred Lord Myriad Form's face. In just 2 years, the human he could easily crush last time had reached the same level as him and even had the advantage. That's... Sacred Lord Myriad Forms seemed to sense something with its eyes of Myriad Forms, and Zhao Feng's left eye also fluttered slightly. A human group containing several powerful auras was closing in from the right side of the Ninth Prince. Elder Sky Trampler, the humans have sent reinforcements. Retreat. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms immediately messaged. The power of wind lightning then surrounded him as he ran away. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms group wasn't a match for the Ninth Prince's group to begin with, and now, this new group was also very strong. If they didn't run now, they wouldn't have a chance to run later. On the other side, Sacred Lord Sky Trampler also knew the situation and immediately started to run by relying on the thick element of earth nearby. His speed was also extremely quick. You want to run? Nan Gongsheng was feeling refreshed, and he immediately chased after Sacred Lord Sky Trampler. Boom. 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 Heaven and earth started to move as a storm of ice formed before Nan Gongsheng. The chilling intent of ice reduced Nan Gongsheng's speed. Nan Gongsheng, don't chase after them. Zhao Feng called Nan Gongsheng back. Even if Zhao Feng chased after Sacred Lord Myriad Forms personally, his hope of catching up wasn't high. The eyes of Myriad Forms could change the surroundings, the ground could turn into ice or a swamp. Lightning, fire, and various storms could also be easily summoned. The eyes of Myriad Forms also specialized in the laws of wind lightning as well, so Sacred Lord Myriad Forms was at least as fast as Zhao Feng. This meant that, if one wanted to chase after Sacred Lord Myriad Forms, they first needed to be able to block the power of nature itself, and they also had to have speed that surpassed Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. Your Highness Crown Prince, your recent achievements aren't bad at all. A voice slowly sounded as the group approached. Brother 13th Prince, your elder brother still can't catch up to you. The 9th Prince had a calm expression. The newcomers were the 13th Prince and his group, and at the front of the group was a female in purple. She was extremely stunning and elegant, and she instantly attracted everyone's gaze. Brother Feng. Zhao Yufei's eyes were watery as she stared at Zhao Feng below. There was nothing else in her eyes. 9 years had passed since she saw Zhao Feng in the divine illusion dimension. 9 years, Zhao Yufei finally managed to see Zhao Feng once more. Brother Feng, I can finally see you again. A purple figure leapt into Zhao Feng. Zhao Yufei's eyes were slightly red. Although she was happy, she also wanted to cry. She had too many things to say, and she wanted to tell Zhao Feng all about it. Zhao Feng's eyes flashed as he felt a soft body leap into him. The teary eyes of Zhao Yufei made his cheeks wet. Yufei. Zhao Feng also became emotional. Excitement and sadness appeared at the same time. He couldn't distinguish what he was feeling. Sister Yufei. On the side, the 13th prince's face and ears were scarlet red as anger covered his face. The sacred emperor and the grand elder of the Duanmu family had already agreed to the marriage between them, but now, the girl he liked leapt into the embrace of another male. This made him extremely angry, and he was about to unleash his rage. Master. Zhao Feng looked at Duanmu Qing within the 13th prince's group. Next to Duanmu Qing was a sacred lord of the demonic Tao who coldly glanced at Zhao Feng. At this moment, the members of the 9th prince's group who retreated earlier returned. Ji Lan's inner heart shook slightly as she looked at the stunning goddess in Zhao Feng's embrace, and she lowered her head, speechless. As more and more spectators arrived and discussed in low tones, Zhao Yufei's face became red, and she let go of Zhao Feng. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms has run away. Let's conquer the stronghold ahead, then we'll talk. The 9th prince could tell that the 13th prince wasn't here to reinforce them. There should be something that he wanted to talk about. The 9th prince's group and the 13th prince's groups pushed forward. They found no non-human groups on the way. It was obvious that they had given up on the stronghold. The groups soon arrived at an empty city. Zhao Feng, Zhao Yufei, and Duanmu Qing gathered together in a hall. Brother Feng, Zhao Yufei wanted to tell Zhao Feng about the frustrations she had, but she didn't know how to start. Her emotions were extremely chaotic right now. Although she had a noble bloodline and powerful strength, she was just a normal girl in terms of relationships. I know everything. Don't worry, if you don't want to do anything, no one can force you to do it. Zhao Feng's expression was solemn, and his tone was decisive. Zhao Feng wanted to kill the 13th prince a long time ago, but he never had a chance. Ever since, the 13th prince kept on testing Zhao Feng's bottom line. Zhao Feng had his mind made up. As long as he had a chance, he would take action. If the 13th prince died, then what was the point of the marriage? Zhao Feng, junior marshal sister Yufei and I came to the battlefield to discuss the marriage with the 13th prince, Duanmu Qing said. They had talked to the 13th prince many times, and the 13th prince kept on saying that he would make Zhao Yufei fall in love with him. Therefore, every talk they had never resulted in anything. I won't agree to canceling the marriage. The 13th prince slowly walked into the hall and coldly looked at Zhao Feng. He was extremely angry over the plan he made with all his forces failing. If they had just managed to kill Zhao Feng back then, none of this would be happening right now. This was the second time he saw the girl he liked hugging Zhao Feng now. This pushed the 13th prince's jealousy and killing intent toward Zhao Feng to the limit. However, he knew that Zhao Feng was very strong, and he could only rely on the forces that supported him and his mother to deal with Zhao Feng. As long as he didn't agree to cancel the marriage, the Duanmu family couldn't force the sacred emperor to cancel the marriage. Your Highness 13th Prince, I will never like you. Zhao Yufei looked at the 13th prince and spoke in a decisive and frustrated tone. You. The 13th prince was enraged. The girl he liked had continuously injured his heart and ignored his love. On top of that, she hugged another male in front of everyone. At this moment, the 13th prince finally realized how disgusting the girl he liked was. Right now, he just wanted to kill Zhao Feng and torture Zhao Yufei. Zhao Feng looked at the 13th prince, and a stealthy ripple of mental energy passed through the air. No one in the entire stronghold sensed it. At this moment, a terrifying pressure descended onto this hall. What's going on? Are the non-humans counterattacking? The 13th prince's legs became soft as he immediately ran out. Sacred Lord Black Iron, what happened? The 13th prince arrived next to Sacred Lord Black Iron with fear. Sacred Lord Black Iron was the demonic Tao Sacred Lord in his group. He was a Sacred Lord sent by Nine Darkness Palace to protect the 13th prince and create achievements. Sacred Lord Black Iron was at the early stages of the Mystic Light Realm. One had to know that only a few late-stage Mystic Light Realm Sacred Lords appeared in Lan Province, and they only appeared to stall the experts of the non-humans. Even the Crown Prince only had Sacred Lord Gong Huang, who was at the early stages of the Mystic Light Realm, with him. If the forces that supported the 13th Prince sent a late-stage Sacred Lord to support the 13th Prince, the Imperials wouldn't give him a very good rating even if his results were good. Divine senses appeared one after another in the city as quasi-sacred lords and sacred lords appeared. Those that are supposed to be here are all finally here. Zhao Feng gave a faint smile. Zhao Feng, come out. A thunderous roar boomed and shook the city, as if it was going to shatter it. Whoosh. Zhao Feng appeared in the air above the hall and looked at the handsome youth with short hair in front of him. Long time no see, little Kun Yuan.